The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we're a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in popular and not so popular franchises. And today we are discussing Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2003. But first, we have a special guest with us today, director and composer Kelly Woessner. Welcome to the show.
Hi, so excited to be here.
Hi. For anybody that heard back on the episode that we had Jordan Bloom and Patton Oswalt discussing Maniac Cop, we were talking about how we, John and I and another person, did the trailer for Minor Threats, and the director and composer was Kelly here, who is our guest. So if you want to put all those things together, so basically like Kelly and John did a whole bunch of stuff and I just sort of like guided it along. So, but yeah, Kelly wrote it and did the music for it. If all of y'all got to see that.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And I mean, I just want to mention too that I did a count today, you guys, of the number of trailers that we have all made together. And we are approaching 17 trailers at this point.
That's cool. Yeah,
I mean, some of those were Donna Dresch. I can't take credit for this. Yeah, for punk legend Donna Dresch.
Right. Totally.
As a collective team, yes. But maybe about half of those were the three of us. So amazing.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Great. We've wanted to have you on for a while, and I've reached out and I've said, as I usually say, what franchises do you like? And you said Texas Chainsaw is a big favorite. I remember saying that there's a few that you could choose from, and you were like, not excited necessarily about the remake, but you were open to the remake. And I was like, I want somebody who's interested in the franchise as a whole to talk about the remake with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, obviously, just completely, foundational as far as cinema and horror specifically. Like, I was attracted to it initially just as a huge Nine Inch Nails fan because there's like so many samples from the Downward Spiral. And so that was how I honestly first heard about the movie. And then, I think I watched it like for the first time when I was like in film school because, it's kind of a travesty that I didn't see it before then. But just so incredibly deeply marrow deep disturbing, that film, in its patience and the way that it just completely pulverizes you literally over the head by the end. Incredible.
Yeah.
Cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And do you like the sequels? Have you seen those, or are you just sort of floating along with them with us by any chance?
I'm kind of a floater, although I gotta say, I will say this: when you guys did air the first episode, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre episode several weeks ago, I was driving through. I saved it because I was going to be in New Mexico, driving from Albuquerque to Carlsbad in this desolate, boiling, just, like basically those like similar tone of a drive to the way that the kids were driving in Texas Chainsaw. And I was like, I just want to set the scene.
No surprises. I'll be ready for it when it shows up.
Yeah. I just want to be immersed in the background here. So, and then, I mean, obviously just being like a long time, good friends of yours and then longtime fan of the show, as I've been listening to each episode, I've just been like, I should really dive into more than just this film that we're about to review and the original. So
yeah.
Maybe along for the ride for more stuff.
For sure. Nice. Yeah. It's kind of the thesis statement. Like, let's just get through them all, just so we have seen them. But you have seen this one before, correct?
I had seen this one before. Yeah, actually, it's interesting. Around in 2003, when this came out, they did a special screening at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood. And Tobe Hooper was there screening the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I went to that, then saw this one. Upon rewatch, I remembered absolutely nothing about it. Just completely disappeared from my mind from the moment I walked out of the theater, except for one part, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point. But it was basically a fresh view this time.
What about you, John?
This is all new until we get to the most recent one. This is all new territory for me. I saw none of the 21st century chainsaws. I'm sure at the time I was very much like against the concept of remakes in general.
I absolutely was. Yeah. When this came out, I was just like, what are you talking about? I'm going to angrily avoid this. I didn't have the curiosity that I do now. And the only reason I ended up finally watching it was because a friend of the show, Michael Holloway, who's been on before, he and I were living together at the same time 20 years ago in Portland, Oregon, right down the street from Movie Madness. And one of our favorite musicians, the guy from Skinny Puppy, was just like, hey, the new Texas Chainsaw is actually extremely brutal. You should watch it. And so we, like, as soon as we read that, we just trudged up to Movie Madness and like, anything you say, Kevin Key, and rented it and brought it back. And I don't even remember what we thought of it after it was over, because it's just, I don't know. It's kind of a tough one in a lot of ways, but
well, it's funny. The I've quoted this book of the last few times, the Texas Chainsaw Companion, written by Stefan Jaworzen, and if I'm saying that right, the bile in his writing for this one, like it wasn't even released by the time that at least this version that I'm reading, but it's just like the how you would even dare to do this,
right?
Like you could just read it in the writing. He's not hiding it at all, and it's very, very funny.
Well, who dares but Michael Bay? And so that's the one with the balls, if you will, to remake this film. But it is interesting, since he started the company Platinum Dudes just to make low budget films that can turn a high profit. And I don't have anything against that. You know, it's the movie business, so horror does that. So. But then this one was successful enough that it spawned all those grimdark remakes through the 2000s. So we lay all those at the feet of this one.
Shockingly successful, this one. I was astonished.
Over 100 million.
Over 100 mil. Insane.
With a budget of 9.5. So that's,
Even by Hollywood math, that's successful.
Yeah,
barely.
It came in. It was like the 50 something most profitable movie of the year, just under Freddy versus Jason.
Oh, funny.
Oh, wow.
But 9.5 million compared to 140,000 on the original. You're obviously starting from a very different point of view with this one. I think the only, as far as the pre-production of this goes, the only thing that I think is really interesting is just that it's Daniel Pearl filming it, the cinematographer from the first one. And I think that's kind of interesting. And he's the one that pushed to do it.
Yeah. And like, you wouldn't, it doesn't smack of the original in the visual sense. Like, it doesn't quite have that like guerrilla grainy, like it looks, I mean, frankly, it's kind of beautifully shot. Like it's quite nice. But I was shocked to read that it was him.
Yeah, it's very, very polished for its griminess. It's sort of a very art directed griminess.
It was something to the effect of like Marcus Nispel, the director, he didn't want to direct it, and then Daniel Pearl said, "No, wait, we should do it. If anybody's going to remake it, I want to remake it and bookend my career with 2 Chainsaw films." And like, how are you going to turn that down? Like, that's a cool opportunity if you are a director. Yeah. Is Nispel the right guy for this show? I don't know.
Well, he's people who have listened to the show or followed around with us. He did the 2009 remake of Friday the 13th. And so this was his earlier remake. A lot of the same. I went back and listened to that episode, and a lot of the same problems I have with that one, I have with this one.
And interesting.
I found out in reading about him, I found out in 2003, he was still a big fan of the Rajneesh guy.
Oh,
which
okay.
I think is wild, not just in the concept of like, you know what they were up to, right? Like this was a cult kind of thing. If you haven't seen Wild Wild Country, it's a very good documentary series on Netflix, but also that like, have you seen the movies that you've made?
Yes.
Or like that you have this background in commercials that you're like, no, but I'm looking for peace and enlightenment, but I'm going to go ahead and make a Pepsi ad. It's like he's the end of Mad Men come to life. He is a tulpa of Don Draper's imagination in that moment.
Yes.
But he's here with all his Marcus Nispelishness doing Chainsaw.
Yeah, and I guess he had directed 250 music videos by this point. Like
that.
That's no small amount. You know?
Yeah. I mean, including CNC Music Factory is going to make you sweat. So,
I mean, classic.
I just, well, and it's funny because like, this was 2003. So this was like post Seven, so like it was one of these things where like all these incredible music video directors, David Fincher, Mark Romanek, were out making these incredible high art, high grossing movies, and I feel like they were like, I want to think they were just like, can we get Fincher? No. Can we get Mark? No.
Right.
They just like made their way down the list. They were like, well, the guy that made the Everybody Dance Now video.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's hot in Texas. It's going to make you sweat. It seems hand in glove.
Right.
Yeah, and it makes sense because there's a lot of music video visual language in this where it's, look, this doesn't all like fit together if you think about it, but the vibe is there.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Like just characters can sometimes leap across the screen in terms of like blocking and stuff like that. Doesn't matter. You're just kind of along for the ride. You're getting the vibe we're putting down.
But he had not even seen the original. He thought he just called it a splatter picture. He had not seen the original Texas Chainsaw. And then when he got the job, he's like, well, I guess I should go back and watch this. And then he called it like, somebody called it like blasphemy, like nobody should ever remake this. And then, he was kind of convinced after the fact. So.
Yeah, there were a couple of interviews in that same Texas Chainsaw Massacre companion book where with Bill Moseley and then Gunnar Hansen, who were both sort of like, oh, this is happening, I'm kind of interested.
Yeah.
And they were essentially told, well, like, no, there's no space for you. And this is more of a dark psychological horror. It's not the bloodbath of the original.
Oh.
It's like, oh yeah. The bloodbath of the original. Sure.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's in good hands.
It's more psychological. Yeah, because the other one just didn't get into your psyche quite enough.
It had the word massacre in the title, so how could it be anything but?
Sure.
Honestly, though, every single word in the title is terrifying. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right. Yes, exactly.
It just kind of escalates in terror but right out the gate, I'm terrified.
Yeah. And, Bay even said, like in some interviews, like Bay would even just say like, well, it's a title that just grabs people attention. And I know I can make money off of that. I'm just like, well, I scoff at that just a little bit because it's Michael Bay. But then I'm just like, all those old 1950s and 60s directors and producers and stuff would like make movies just based on the title and then make a poster and then make a movie. So, I suppose there's a little bit of precedent for that.
I mean, that was like Maniac Cop, right? That was Larry Cohen just was like, hey, here's a tagline. And they were like, oh, my God, this is amazing. So.
Right. How can we not make this movie? But like I in watching this again, like knowing we were going to talk about it, I just thought to myself, I'm going to try to meet this film on its level. Like I'm going to try to just be like, let's just dispense with the idea that you can't remake Texas Chainsaw because they did. Like, how are you even going to do that in the early 2000s? So I'm going to like attempt to find where it's trying to be, I guess. Although it did crack me up because the famous Roger Ebert, who I always appreciate that he tries to find a film on its own level, gave this 0 stars and said, this is a brutal nihilistic film that you should never watch. So
I kind of have to agree that same interview with Nispel, I think it was in Variety. He was saying that like that review is kind of a badge of honor because like Roger Ebert hates horror. In a lot of like the big horror movies he's not a fan of. So he's like, it kind of feels like you got away with something. You got away with the prank when Ebert's all mad about it. So I'm like, yeah, I get it. That's fine. That's fair.
There you go.
While at the same time, I still sort of agree with some of Ebert's things. I still got to give Nispel credit for that.
Oh, sure. Beginning in this journey, of course, we start in 1973 again. And the beginning of this does have, instead of an opening crawl, they do have John Larroquette back, which is pretty great. But now they update it to police footage. This is our bookend. I don't really think it needs to be there, but it was kind of neat to see at the beginning. I don't know if this really adds anything. Did it do anything for either of you?
It just reminded me of the opening title sequence to Seven, honestly. Like ripped from the pages of the opening title sequence, just the way that it's shot. And like, I even made a little note here about like opening shot. It's old because there's grain. Like,
right.
Like it's just a lot of grain. So, it's old.
Yeah. But it did sort of make me realize like, oh, a lot of the stuff I sort of consider sort of stemming from Saw really was much earlier. Like really that Seven kind of blossomed a lot of that eventually sort of became the look of a lot of horror. But this, I was kind of surprised how much stuff it seems like Saw kind of wouldn't say lifted from it, but just that they shared in sort of the visual styles of it. But yeah, I think that definitely stems from Seven. And yeah, it's hard, particularly hard now because like so much of that style is very cliche and trite. But at that time, it still kind of feels like, I don't know, an opening of Forensic Files or something like that.
Yeah. Which is dope.
Yeah, right.
I love Forensic Files.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. Yeah.
Then it dumps us into our van full of teenagers. I don't know if they're teens anymore in these movies or not, but we just can call them that. But I was kind of glad they kept it 1973 for what that's worth instead of trying to update it 2003. I'm sure we'll get there in these movies eventually, but if we're going to go for an original, let's just start in the 70s. Keep it older.
Yeah. Play Leonard Skinner in the car instead of Blink 182. Sweet.
Yeah. But it's like, it's the most 2003 1970s. Like it's
Yes.
the 70s. We're sure.
Yeah. What do we think of our 5 young people in the van? So we've got, there's no more Franklin. I don't know if that would have gone over so well these days. So instead, we've just got a stoner nerd instead, and then 2 couples. And that's kind of it. That's about as distinctive as they all are. I guess Pepper's a little hippie-ish. Jessica Biel is Jessica Biel. And then we got 2 big buff dudes.
Yeah.
The 2 big buff dudes were fairly interchangeable, except one had a goatee and the other one had like a microwaved wig on. I don't know what was going on with that hair.
Yeah, it was very early Justin Bieber, that hair.
Yeah.
Right.
I was I'm unsure, not being alive then. I was like, is that really a 70s haircut? But whatever. I kind of had some of the same problem again with, even though it's a different screenwriters, the Friday the 13th remake, where it's like, these people are all just kind of jerks.
Yeah.
And except for Jessica Biel, who is the good one. And this movie really lets you know that she's the good one over and over and over again. But she's the good one.
Well, originally, and I'm kind of glad they got rid of this idea, but the reason why she wasn't smoking pot and having sex in this movie is because she was supposed to be originally 9 months pregnant.
Right.
And I thought that would have been like extra sadistic in this film if we had a pregnant woman running around from a chainsaw wielding maniac. So
that's a lot going on.
Yeah. It wasn't supposed to be like a big reveal or something at the end, like a surprise, like you didn't know the whole time.
Oh, that could have been it too. Yeah.
Challenging to shoot.
Yeah. My gosh.
Or I mean, now I'm just thinking about like the final standoff. Baby hits the ground like Iron Man, that Marvel 3-point stance, and then they have a big fight.
There you go.
Yeah, really missed opportunity there.
Right. Yeah, but these guys all seem just fine. I mean, they do take on the role of just like slasher cannon fodder more so than I think how the original Chainsaw people, like those people were a little bit more distinct for as like indistinctive a role as they had. But these guys are fine. And I did kind of like later on, I did kind of appreciate Morgan's performance like a little bit more than the rest of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Just showing fear, you know.
That actor that plays Morgan, Jonathan Tucker, is in The Ruins, which is a not too shabby mid 2000s or, you know, a horror movie. The book is way better.
Oh,
but,
I read the book a couple of years ago.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, I forgot he was in that. Yeah, that's a mean film too.
It's a very mean film. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets there's some lip quivering in this film.
Made that note.
Is
absolutely.
Oscar worthy lip quiver.
Totally. Yes. Yeah.
I've got Oscar lip.
Yep. But yeah, they're headed down the highway, and evidently they're carrying 2 pounds of pot, and they went down to Mexico to just buy some pot, and which means
hiding it in a piñata so nobody can smell it.
Exactly. Yeah. But of course they have to find a hitchhiker, and it's not our old friend from the first one. It's a young blonde woman that they pick up, and it did make me laugh when the guy said,
Boys, that's a bad attitude problem right there.
Nobody wants to pick her up. They finally do. Maybe this is nitpicking, but like she does make a big deal of it after, you know, a few moments in the van of like, don't go that way. But she's walking in that direction. Mm-hmm. Like I would have thought that she would have been walking the other direction out of town, but they're going. I rewound it a couple times. They are still driving in the same direction, but whatever. Yeah. She gets in the car, and this is the only sequence that I remembered from this film, I think. And fair enough, it's pretty memorable. How do you top the original hitchhiker scene. I think you have to do something different and more graphic in 2003. And boy, did they.
Sure did. Yeah, absolutely.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
I thought her performance as the hitchhiker was quite good. Felt so awful for whatever she had been through. Very convincing. And that shot.
Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Skeptical, John?
Well, it's more just like I spent a lot of the movie going tonight. It's just let it be the remake. Just let it be its own thing.
Yeah.
It's already like this one is. And I'm going to sound like a prettier, but it's so much grosser than the first one. Yeah. And already I'm a little bit annoyed because she's clearly gone through some stuff, but can't communicate to them what happened or whatever. But they're also like bad communicating with her in this way that was more, I think, frustrating than scary. But then when she's wearing like this like short sundress kind of thing, and then she reaches between her legs and produces a gun.
Don't know where that was.
That's already horrifying.
Yeah.
And then
we can think. I have a lot of questions personally, just how that's, but what Hollywood magic.
Yeah.
But then she puts the gun in her mouth and it's a very impressive effect. Shoots herself in the head. And then you get the reaction of sort of fisheye lens looking at the front of the van. Reaction as the camera pulls back and then goes through her head. And it's not just that. It's just when it reaches past her head, the head flops back.
Yes, it's so good.
That was a great gag. That felt very kind of like Raimi-ish, honestly. Like,
right, yeah.
It was nice. It wasn't just, it was a physical thing. It wasn't like a CG, whatever, that kind of had a weightlessness to it. No, it was this physical, disgusting flop.
Yep.
Yeah. And it was very effective.
Out the car too.
Out the car, yeah.
And then they run out of the car and they're throwing out. It's just this. Everything is going on. It's the best shot in the film. Frankly.
Yeah.
It's great, and it introduces you to perhaps, if not the main character, a very strong supporting character based purely on screen time. The hole in the glass of the back windshield. We see that thing so many times, and it spent so much time looking at it. People looking through it. People looking through it the other way. Leatherface jamming his chainsaw through it. Like they love that glass hole.
Well, they're not going to let you forget what a great shot they did earlier. Yeah. It's a constant reminder.
And fair enough, they earned it. That was really cool.
Yeah, right. Yes. So with a dead hitchhiker in their van, they're all freaked out. Of course, they can't call the cops because they've got 2 pounds of weed in the van. And luckily, they do just toss the thing in the field, because if they were going to go on and on about that as a ticking time bomb, I think I was going to be very upset at this movie.
Yes.
It's kind of revealed that, Kemper, our main guy character, who I guess is named after an infamous serial killer.
Yep, Edmund Kemper.
Edmund Kemper. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever watch Mindhunter, he's featured in that. But
right.
Yeah.
Bad guy.
Got a great voice. That guy. He narrates audiobooks apparently.
Oh, that's comforting.
Oh.
Yeah. So sweet dreams, everyone.
Yeah. So luckily Kemper. Well, we find out that Kemper he's just like.
I also, it lets you know what a great movie this is, because it has something that every great movie has, and that's an animal reaction shot. When he throws the weed, the weed into a field, there's a shot of a cow that goes boo, and that's how you know it's good.
Right. The cow is just like, sweet.
Yeah, finally.
It's on.
So many times I've sat through Citizen Kane, arms crossed, going, where's an animal reaction shot?
There should be a penguin looking out the window anytime now.
Oh, guys, no, just you wait till Michael Bay remakes Citizen Kane. There'll be,
he's going to have the sweetest jugs.
Yeah, right. So they decide to head on down the road to the gas station / barbecue joint, because where else would you go? And there is a little moment where Erin needs to use an outhouse, but she uses a knife to pick the lock, because of course we need to know that she can do that for later on in the film.
She blames having older brothers that they taught her how to do that. Yeah,
always the problem. But
before we get to this, like coming off of the headshot real quick, So you have this very like tense, horrifying moment. And I'm just thinking about like the way that the first one sort of unfolds and the weirdness of it. You have this awful moment, and then it's like them dealing with this and like what to do next. And we've got to take this body somewhere, and it's all very upsetting. And then it's a close up of Pepper. She goes, well, I'm not getting back in the van. Doodle-loop. She's back in the van, and the van drives away. I'm like, why is there an F Troop joke following that? Like that was such whiplash. And I think part of my problem with this movie is that like, because of that sort of like grim style for all of it, when those jokes happen, they just feel gross. They just feel like not a part of it. They just ring so false against everything else.
Yeah.
That it just like, while that could be fine, like in again, like a more of a, maybe if it didn't have this sort of awful look already. But because it's so just like grimy, I'm like, man, these people are all just awful. And then, because then there's the scene immediately afterwards where the whole purpose of the shot is for that scene is for the guy to go,
I guess that's what brains look like. Huh? Sort of like lasagna.
Yeah, that guy sucks.
Yeah.
The movie, and they did this with the Friday the 13th remake, where it's like they really are doing this as a slasher movie where they're trying to make you hate these kids and make it feel like they deserve what's coming to them. That's certainly a way to do it. For me, as a remake of the original, is that as effective? I don't know, but as a slasher movie, that's not unheard of. Whether or not you think that's a tired trope or not is go with God on that one. But they really spent a lot of time making sure that, with the exception of Jessica Biel and maybe Pepper, that most of these people are pretty crummy.
The dudes, particularly.
All the dudes.
Yeah. No, right away. Like, yeah, you're right. Right from the get-go, as soon as they're driving off, and they're in the car and they're like spraying the air freshener, and they're super inconvenienced by this young woman who has blown her brains out in their car. They all suck.
Right. I thought their initial reaction was believable, but maybe they just settled into inconvenienced a little bit too easily. Yeah.
To be fair, full disclosure, I have never been denied seeing Leonard Skinner, so I don't know how a person would react in that situation.
Fair enough.
I've happened to me once, running
and it was happened to me once, and it was just because of a dead body, and I didn't react well either. So
you guys think about it. Yeah, that probably is the most traumatizing part of the entire movie for them, or the entire experience is missing the show. So
So at the barbecue joint, of course, it's grosser in a lot of ways than the original, because it just looks like literal pigs' heads with flies all over them. Not like processed meats, it's just raw dead animal. Yeah,
it's not just like some stuff hanging up. It looks disgusting. It's how they're sort of revealing this delve into it. And again, a lot of this is just like with all these other remakes, it's like, well, let's make our version of that. It's not necessarily meant to be, this is for fans of the original. It's just we're making our version of that. So it's approaching it as two different things. And it's almost like if you're giving a football as a gift, do you wrap it so it looks like a football, or do you put it in a box so someone can later go, oh my God, it's a football? And this one really wraps it as a football. So you can tell this place is disgusting. This whole thing just seems bad. Yeah. It really betrays the original, which just was just vibes, a lot of vibes, you're just kind of like, it's shot creepily. There's no music, rarely music. What's going on? I feel uneasy. This one right out the gate tells you how to feel. Yeah. I definitely I think that you mentioned 9 Inch Nails, that pig head in there. I'm like, oh yeah, the Closer video. Like, boom, right there. Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, they wanted the guy that made the Closer video, couldn't get him. Yeah. Got to some music factory. It's all good. Right. Tomato. Yeah. The old lady at the counter calls the sheriff to report the suicide the kids are talking about.
Where'd you say you found her again?
Ma'am, I already told you, about 10 minutes west of here.
About 5 miles west.
Ma'am, excuse me. When is the sheriff gonna be here?
Sheriff said he's headed over to the old Crawford Mill.
Sorry, the what?
The old Crawford Mill. He wants to know if you wouldn't mind driving over there to make your report.
This did kind of make me laugh, and I did appreciate this a little bit, just being like, he says it's going to take him 2 hours to get down here. Like, there's no sense of urgency. It's a small town sheriff. He's got other things to deal with, and they may even be like kitten in a tree level. but it's just like he's out there. You go to him with your dead body.
Yeah.
That little bit kind of works for me.
Mm-hmm.
So they do drive around with the dead girl in their van.
Some more.
Yeah, some more. Yes.
Yeah.
They get to the old mill. They futz around for a while and get scared by a possum.
Classic.
Yeah.
Apparently they had to shoot that a whole bunch because the possum just kept looking cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They had to like play with them, get them all riled up. So
Yeah.
he would be like,
Oh. I love the idea of Nispel just being like, come on, guys, I'm trying to make a horror movie here.
Yeah.
Like,
Just
stop
open the
laughing.
door and the possum just like, I'm a small bean. And just the big teary anime eyes. Damn it.
Oh,
You'll never work in this town again, possum.
yeah. He's dead now. They
Show
come
some
across a
respect
kid.
for a dead possum.
Right. They come across Jedediah, who asks about the girl in the van there. And he's kind of like your just stereotypical, like little backwoods country boy.
Yeah.
Kind of cute, kind of messed up looking.
There's nothing wrong with the kid. What bothers me here is that like, so he's this clearly like disheveled, upset looking child who like they're trying to talk to. He's hidden back there and he goes,
What'd you do to her?
Huh?
The girl out there. In the van.
We didn't do anything to her.
She did that to herself.
Promise you won't hurt me?
they don't react to that. It immediately just
Right.
cuts to Morgan like looking, going like, "Oh, you make this art? That's crazy."
Yeah.
That's like that. Would that like scare you at all? That this kid is like sees someone and his first response is to be like, "There's probably violence is going to happen to me." Nah,
Right.
we got Skinner to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
it's fine. It's established these people are pieces of shit. So
Yeah.
it makes
Right.
sense.
This seems like a scene's going to start here, and it doesn't. That'll keep the
Yeah.
audience on edge.
Oh,
And
sure,
instead,
sure.
it just cuts to outside, and they're just sitting around with this kid chatting, and it's not real clear why he's there. They're not really interested in finding out.
Sure. Or who's hurt him in the past.
Don't care. Is that going to get me closer to Skinner? Absolutely not.
This doesn't serve my interests at the moment.
Right. Aaron and Kemper set off towards the sheriff's house because Jedediah says that he lives just over there or something to that effect. So they walk just over there, which is great. But when they leave, though, and Jedediah is left with the other teenagers, I did kind of laugh because the little kid just starts poking the dead body with a stick.
Mhm.
You know, again, probably not something that would have happened in the original one, but meeting this movie at its level, little kid's going to be
I'm with
poking a
you.
dead body with a stick and made me laugh.
Kids be poking.
Yeah.
So I did think this reveal shot of the house was pretty great. Just the home that they have for the Texas Chainsaw House is pretty amazing. And they did just stumble upon that in Texas when they were
Wow.
out there location scouting. So like you drive up to that thing and you're just like, well, we struck gold. I don't know. Like, I don't even need to go inside. This is perfect, at least for the exteriors.
Yeah. And again, as Kelly, as you've already sort of pointed out, like there's no like, oh, it's a house. No, this house is creepy as hell. Like there's no from the jump.
There
it's
you
like,
go. There
this
you
is
go.
bad. This is bad
Yeah.
news.
In the original, like that, it was actually, the house on the outside was, nicely swept on the, like the porch was nicely swept. There's a swing.
Yeah.
There was a tooth. There was a tooth on the porch.
There's a tooth. What old house doesn't have a tooth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably have a tooth outside my apartment right now. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Right.
I get you a tooth. No questions asked.
Exactly. But yeah, that's a great point though. I mean, like the house in the original one like looks run down,
Yeah.
but this one
Yeah.
looks don't go into this house. Scary.
Yeah. Don't go into a house that's that nicely backlit.
Right. There's an older man in a wheelchair that lives there, allows Aaron inside to call the sheriff. So here you're just going to start to realize you're getting, you're getting the Rob Zombie kind of version of the everybody is going to be pretty elevated in this
Yeah.
kind of more modern level.
Well, as Ebert said in his review, it's kind of a geek show. Like it is a bunch of like, look at these freaks and whatever.
Yeah.
And like so far, everyone they've met just looks like they just got done cleaning the fryer. Like they're all just like sweaty and grimy and awful looking.
That's Texas, baby.
I guess that's
Yeah,
Texas.
right.
Yeah. I don't want to mess with them.
Don't mess with them.
from here on out, from here for the next bit, we kind of like cut back and forth. So I'll try to like we kind of maybe stay on the like just for a second here, getting back to at the gas station. The sheriff arrives. They're being separated. We can discuss whether or not that seems in line with the spirit of Texas Chainsaw or not. I don't know, but R. Lee Ermey shows up, and this man basically steals the show from Leatherface, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you can steal it back from R. Lee Ermey because he's despicable, but he's amazing.
Best casting. Spot on. Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's also just sort of like he kind of has a type of role that he plays, but I think they were able to spin that a bit and make it even like grosser. Like to just
even worse.
Yeah.
Gnarly.
This is really like the Cards Against Humanity version of the original. It's just like it's nasty, but it's also just stupid in its nastiness. It's just like, what if I say poop and vagina a whole bunch of times?
Yeah.
Because like his little spiel here when he finds the body and they start wrapping it up.
Back when I was a young patrolman, I used to love wrapping up these young honeys.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah, it caught me a little bit of a feel every now and then, Oh, look at that. It's kind of wet down there. What have you boys been doing with this dead body anyway?
And it just gets so unpleasant. It feels very forced, but still I like R. Lee Ermey's performance of it.
Yeah, it's like, I'll allow it because it's R. Lee.
Precisely. Yeah, like any other person, I'd be kind of annoyed, and I'm still a little annoyed because I'm like, you guys are trying so hard, but he's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Even when he's being this vile. I mean, I do love that he gets out of the car and he's already pissed off. Like there's like you're starting at a 2 with him on a scale of 1 to 10, and there's nowhere to go but down.
I was ready for some football, and then you did this.
Yeah, it's almost as though this is like the 12th body he's had to deal with tonight, and he's just over it. Yeah, compassion gone, just wants to get home and crack a beer.
So he starts wrapping up the body, and like what? It's not even like, wrapped in plastic material. It's saran wrap.
It's saran wrap, yeah.
It's not a tarp. Which is pretty funny. Hauls the body out.
Don't give me any crap, young lady. God damn it, I got just as much respect for a dead body as anybody around here. Hey! Get that nasty goddamn thing out of the back seat of my goddamn car. Put it in the trunk. What the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah, and the way that he makes them help him after what they've been through.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they're not affected by what they've been through, but I was just picturing like, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
Be like, you deal with it. This is my problem.
Yeah. Is this not your job? No, please, use your hand around the back of the head where brains are.
Yeah.
And
at
hold
the
it forward.
least, give me some gloves.
Yes. Also he finds the gun used that the girl used to shoot herself, and it nicely fits in the holster around his ankle. And then no one says anything about that.
Yeah. Does he remove the bullets in that moment? Does he like do one of those classic things where he like looks? Okay,
I think he just looks at it, smells it, and then puts it in the old holster.
Back at the old mill house, Aaron is allowed to go inside, and Kemper is like told to wait on the porch for a while. She's led inside. She starts calling the sheriff on the horn. She gets all excited because evidently the sheriff's supposed to show up there in 30 minutes or back at the gas station. I can't remember.
I think at the mill or something. Yeah.
At the mill. Okay, gotcha. So, she thinks I'm all done here until the old guy pulls her deeper into the house by asking for her assistance. And of course, the most disgusting way possible. He's emptying a colostomy bag, right?
Yes, because he is missing his legs, the bottom part of his legs, but also he's apparently like fallen off he's off his chair in the bathroom trying to empty the colostomy bag in the toilet. But there's also a tub that has liquid pork running out of it. Like,
ew, yeah.
Again, just the shot that's like, hey, isn't that gross? Don't worry about it. Moving on.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Prel. I don't know, but it looked disgusting.
Right.
And then, he's like, will you help me back up into my chair? And she's trying to help him. And he's just copping a feel of her butt the whole time. Which for as much as I'm irritated with how quickly this movie is cut, I feel like it ruins a lot of the pacing of this movie. Just it has a very music video style pacing, but it manages to just slow down and take its time whenever Jessica Biel is on screen and you have a chance to ogle her a little bit. The camera's like, well, let's just hang out here for a bit.
Yeah.
Like particularly like right after, like when they're trying to figure out what to do, she's standing outside the van looking in the window, and Kemper opens the door for us. You can see the midriff and the boobs, and
right.
Then we'll have the conversation. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
2003.
Yeah, she's struggling to help him back in the chair, and that's when Kemper finally like comes in.
And yeah, he starts poking around and sees a TV where there's sees a room where there's a TV with cartoons on. Sees that there's a bunch of stuff that makes noise on the door and starts touching it for some reason, and it falls off. He bends down to get it up, and I did like this because when he goes to pick it up, cuts back, Leatherface is right behind him.
Yeah.
Plonks him on the head with the old hammer.
Yeah, I mean, everything about this kill was a bummer. Not the least of which is the reason that it's all so close. Everything is shot so close, and it's cut really quick, and it's almost like confusing as to what's happening. And again, not to harken back to the original, but that first kill in the original, it's like from a distance.
Yeah.
It's like you're just kind of plastered against the wall and you can't do anything but watch this unfold, and it makes it so much more unsettling. It's so messed up, and this you're just right up in it and confused.
Yeah, Nispel would do this whole movie in close-up if he could.
Yeah.
Like so much of this is just close-ups of people's faces. Why try to create that kind of feeling when I can just show a face going, "Bleh."
Yeah, exactly.
And I do think, a lot of this movie is very close and claustrophobic, but not in a way that I think serves it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I just like the reveal of Leatherface just being right there.
And we get the classic metal door slam.
The slam.
So there's that.
So there's our Leatherface.
Also,
there's our first kill. Second kill, I guess. So Leatherface has a dripping like Saw style dungeon down here where he gets to work in. He's upgraded.
This is the part of the movie where everything gets drippy and it doesn't stop dripping. It just gets very wet and it's very uncomfortable.
It is definitely the wettest Texas Chainsaw so far. I want to say maybe 3 was in second place because it had like the lake and all that. But like, it's really wet for being like in a desert and dry and having that kind of grim look to it. All of a sudden, it's really wet. Yeah,
so he's got his little workshop down here, and he starts going to work on Kemper's body, and the camera pans over, and
on a platter is the head of Harry Knowles. Audience, if you don't know who Harry Knowles is, that's good. That's a very good thing. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going into this guy, but he was the head of a site that was very big in the late 90s, early 2000s called Ain't It Cool News. It was like the place to go for the hot Hollywood gossip, and really did a lot to sort of elevate nerd culture and that, because they would talk about comics. Yeah. But he is a despicable person and it's very gross. And like there was already early on, he was doing sort of kind of pay for play stuff where it's like, he would get flown out and get to do this. And then all of a sudden, boy, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake is going to be the best movie ever. Or, and then there's been some allegations, some Me Too kind of stuff to him as well. But outside of that, like I despised his writing. I hated the guy and just, it really is to me typifies this whole movie of like the early internet was so full of, I mean, as much as you think of like the bunch of weirdos that are on, angry uncles on Facebook and whatever, in the early internet, it was mainly these socially maladjusted weirdos. So seeing him in this is just, it was like, God damn, I hate the 2000s. So,
it's over and things are much better now.
Oh, things are great now.
The internet has healed now that we had Harry Knowles' head on a platter here. The internet has healed.
But now, back then it was weirdos being online all the time and being mad. But now when I do it, it's cool. So we've come a long way.
Exactly.
Maybe. Yeah. It's funny because I had forgotten when I hit play on this that he was in this, but then as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh God, I remember that." Oh, that's a blast from the past. I almost
want there to be like a trumpet or something just going wah, wah, when we
Price
see
is
him.
Right losing sign, or a sound,
It's also such a dated reference too. If you, I'm not saying this movie would be timeless without it, but like seeing that dumb bearded head, just like absolutely put it in right when it is,
Timestamp.
You just look at it and you go, man, I was too hard on Kevin Smith. There were so many worse people.
Yeah, right. But I believe, Erin is just like, she can't find Kemper. And so she doesn't know that he's been clobbered. So she just goes back to the barbecue joint. And this is where like the geography of this space, I'm starting to get a little bit annoyed with it. And it only gets worse. Yeah, it's like mill back to the barbecue. And then it expands out from there later on. We'll get to it. But she just like, bilocates back to the play, or fast travels back to the gas station, put it in video game terms. And all four of the remaining kids go off in search of Kemper. But they also, am I remembering it right? They have to like decide whether or not they're going to go and search for Kemper. That's insane. I wouldn't leave either one of you there, just so you know.
Thank you.
Just just so you know, I would not leave you at Leatherface's house.
Cool.
But I will say I wouldn't do that, but you guys are human shields. I'm sorry. I will push you down.
Right.
But they instead, while they're doing this, why does he pull the jar out of the car? Does he just like see something? There's a whole fake jump scare where he's like reaches into a car.
It's he sees like a photo in a jar.
And
I can't decide if it's like
in there. Like what prompted them to
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, he got a little prompt that said press X to put arm in hole.
Sometimes you just gotta
they do a whole big fake jump scare thing, which I was kind of irritated with. It like, guys, we're 40 minutes into this. Let's go. Yeah. But he pulls out a jar that's filled with liquid in a photo of, I'm assuming, is the Piss Christ family. Like it was disgusting. It was just like this family submerged in yellow liquid, and it's the woman that shot herself in the car. Yep. Again, why is it wet? But it's got to be wet.
Yeah. It just it felt like an installation or just like some shitty art piece that somebody was just
But then they're like, well, now we can't possibly leave because I've seen this photo. And really, the problem is the Jessica Biel cares too much. If this never had, for as bad as these kids are, if Jessica Biel just shut her damn mouth, kept her head down, there was some mixed messages of this movie.
Totally. So a couple of the kids go back to the barbecue joint, but Erin is just like, nope, I gotta head back to the house. So of course we're gonna get another shot of the low angle butt approaching the house.
Yeah, but it's okay because it's an homage.
It's an homage. Daniel Pearl's like, I've got to do it.
Yeah, right.
Otherwise, how will they know?
Yeah, it'd be unfair to me.
My fans will expect this. When distracted, Andy goes running inside armed with the tire iron. Andy, the blonde guy. So eventually the older guy in the wheelchair does say like,
you ain't running things, boy. Except in your mouth.
This guy's crazy.
Turd. You're so dead you don't even know it.
Which I don't mind. I don't mind that as a line.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Well, and him having them in that back room and like he's all backlit and kind of commanding things. I enjoyed that. Watching the trap close.
Right. And he even calls Leatherface too, like hitting his cane on the ground.
Yeah.
And
summons
so
like the sandworm.
walk without rhythm, and Leatherface appears. I do like when they make a big deal of every time Leatherface does appear in this movie. He does seem like a force of nature, and that does work for me, especially in this moment. He opens the door, chainsaw starts, and he's huge, and so that to me is effective. But he just immediately gets Andy on the ground, who's blocking a chainsaw with a tire iron, tells Erin to run, save herself, and Leatherface chases Andy out into the the laundromat area of the house.
Where they're washing every sheet ever made.
Every white sheet they have.
12 football fields worth of sheets.
I mean,
it's the grossest house in the universe, but they do so much
They do a lot of laundry. They got to keep it nice and white for when the blood inevitably gets splattered all over when he takes Andy's leg off with the chainsaw. So it's a setup, but I don't know. I didn't mind it.
It's a neat thing, because they're blowing everywhere because Andy's running through there trying to lose Leatherface, hoping the blowing sheets will like slow him down or lose him. And then the camera gets caught up in cut. So you're not even sure where you are anymore. And eventually like Leatherface manages to circle around him and just whops off that leg. And it worked for me. Like, it was kind of overly stylish. I was thinking a little bit about Friday the 13th Part 6, where there's, we joked about it, where it's this scene of the guy, like he's running 10 feet, but there's like 12 different shots of him doing that just to really make it seem like it's so epic. But it was a neat moment. I enjoyed that.
Aaron runs back to the van, and the Sheriff Ermey appears immediately, and he finds a joint in the ashtray. I think this next scene is effective for what it's trying to do, in that it made me like I get frustrated at scenes like this where there's somebody exerting their authority, where like if I were in that, it's not fair for me to say if I were in that situation, but I would just be like, come on, dude. Like, I'm not like taking this
as
like
a 12th Dan black belt karate jiu-jitsu guy. I wouldn't take it. As one of the twins from the Matrix, I wouldn't put up with that shit.
It's just like, don't you just like kind of roll your eyes at people who are exerting their like force so much? Now, granted, it is Arlie Ermey, but like, I'm just like, come on, dude.
I do think like because Arlie Ermey makes the kid. He's like, well, I'm still trying to figure out what's happening here. And he makes Morgan like let's like walk me through it. And then, well, you're not sitting in the right seat. Like if you say she did this here, and it's like it works, but they push it a little bit too far. Where he's like, no, I don't believe it. You got to put the gun in your mouth. Why would you ever go like, oh, okay, like, exactly, that felt a little I mean, and like granted, like I said, he the actor Jeffrey Tucker does a good job. But this strains credulity a little bit. I was enjoying watching Arlie Ermey, but it kind of just sort of kept going. And like, why would you ever agree to do it? Because it's also like, it's not like he has a gun on him. I don't know. It just didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
It had like Last House on the Left vibes, where he's like, take that gun, put it in your mouth and blow your brains out. Like that's what I kept thinking about in that moment, was just like, this is this is gnarly. I don't like this. And what are we trying to accomplish here? Was this just like his way of trying to solve the case? Like, what is happening?
How does this serve? Like, if we want to like break this down, like, how does this serve the rest of the family? Like, because in the other movies, like at least the family's trying to get barbecue. I can get behind that. Like, what's he doing? Like, for like, what's the point of this? Is this just sadism? I guess so.
Yeah, I was gonna say just good old American sadism.
I mean, and if you think about it, like this is 2003. This is like we talked about, like predates the Saw franchise starting by a year. This is post 9/11. America is mad, and like so that we're big into torture. We're big into this kind of stuff. We're like everyone's against us, but also the people that are supposed to protect us are awful. So that's really run through this whole movie. Yeah, and I think it's just a lot of like psychological torture and to no end, like for no reason, just because it's fun.
So he does try to goad him into shooting him in the face, him being our sheriff. He attempts it, no bullets. That's why I was asking earlier if like we saw him like empty the chambers or not. So like she only had one bullet in her gun when she left, I guess. The hitchhiker, that is. So, of course, the sheriff grabs the gun and just like goes out and tortures them some more outside, I believe.
Yeah.
This was the classic lip quiver scene, by the way. Let's just call it the lip quiver.
Yes. Evidently, he was like Morgan, the actor playing Morgan was like, he would put the gun down his throat just enough to start to vomit, just so he
literally puking every time.
Oh my God. I mean, hats off, dedication buddy. To the role. I mean, also, if Arlie Ermey was screaming at me, I'd probably be pretty intimidated. So I guess I take back what I was saying earlier, but
that's the only way to one up Arlie Ermey is to be able to puke every time.
Oh, there you go. Like
in your face, Arlie Ermey. Check this out.
Because then he takes the gun and he like points it like back at Arlie like after he's puked on. It's just it's so gross. It's so
smell the tip.
Really well
and
done.
It is like and to Arlie Ermey's credit and to the filmmaker's credit, like it's not just him doing Full Metal Jacket. Like he is just sleazy and quiet about it, but it's still very, very menacing. But as I still think it strains credulity a bit. But I do like the following scene of them in the cop car. When he's like, his cruelty is much more relaxed in that moment. And I think that works a little bit better rather than that kind of really, I already talked about just sort of the nature of this movie. It just some of it just feels like someone shouting a ghost story at you. Like it's just the whole time. So pulling that back a little bit was nice.
Yeah. So in the car, he smashes him in the jaw with a bottle of liquor and knocks a couple of teeth out. While all that is going on, Leatherface is working on sewing up some new faces that he just skinned off, and we see him change his mask. So for the first time in the franchise history, we see Leatherface's actual face, which is obviously a choice. And what do we think about that? I'm not so sure about it. I kind of like just knowing a mask on him at all times, but I understand the temptation, especially if you're going to remake something, to be the one to reveal.
I definitely could have done without it. I mean, as somebody who wears many faces, many masks in my life, I'm a fan of just the mystery of what's going on under there. I don't know. He might look like Jude Law under there. He's just
that
so
would be awesome.
Yeah,
that he has to wear and then that's just his story. But this whole thing of he had a disease and his nose came off, and so he has to wear the faces, and it messed him up. It was just I want Leatherface to just be mysterious and fucking terrifying. That's what I want in a Leatherface. But that's just me.
I'm with you there. That the mask is Leatherface. And, there's a certain amount of with Friday the 13th, there's an element in every movie of let's see Jason's face. We're going to show you what he looks like now and the different designs. But Leatherface, they've never done that with. It's always just been Leatherface. And I think it's a bummer in a couple of ways. One of which being that it just drags this movie and Leatherface back down to just being a slasher movie. Instead of being something else, it's just, no, we got to go through these tropes of then you see the killer's face and killer's fucked up. And it also, as we learned later with the skin disease or something that's kind of humanizing of him. I don't want that. Me personally, I like Leatherface as just sort of just this weird animal evil that's out there. I was thinking about it, and this is a weird thing, admittedly, but I was thinking about the putting together the masks in 3 versus him now. He's working on a sewing machine. And is it more butch to sew by hand or to use a sewing machine?
I love that it was that old fashioned pedal-y, the pedal. I don't even know there's a word for that, but whatever those are.
Bretta, let us know.
Singers.
Yeah.
But it made it almost was this is his sweet little craft room, as opposed to just by hand, just that's so the closeness of that is much worse.
Yeah. So it made it seem kind of, I don't want to say emasculating because it's not it's Leatherface and gender is all over the place, but it did sort of soften him a bit. And I don't know that works for what they're trying. I mean, in this movie, what they're trying to do with him, I don't know. But in general, for Leatherface, I prefer him being the sort of unknowable. The masks are who he is because he's just so messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever is actually behind that mask, I don't want to see it. I don't want to know it.
And then it also it lets you do the work. It lets you go. It's Jude Law or it's, Jude Law, but fucked up.
Either way, I'm in.
As long as you're on the Jude Law spectrum, it's fine. The Leatherface this time is played by Andrew Briniarski, who I guess approached the filmmakers about playing this role, but he's also probably a little bit more well known for being Chet in Batman Returns, for being Christopher Walken, Max Schreck's kid in that.
That's the guy.
And he's also Butterfinger in Hudson Hawk. If anyone has sadly seen that movie.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Okay, I love Chet in that movie. Yeah.
Quick little aside, that movie literally changed my life, Batman Returns. That was the thing that sparked me wanting to go to film school and do what I do as a 10-year-old.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Andrew Briniarski. Yeah. It might be my favorite one at this point. I'm not sure. But so it's that same guy. And I mean, as far as the physicality required or, his physical performance as Leatherface, generally, I think he's good. He's big and imposing, and he makes him a big scary Hulk. I think overall that works.
He's quite good. Yeah. Aaron and Pepper back at the van, try to hotwire it, get it going, only to find out that the tire has been loosened and that then Leatherface pops out with his chainsaw and starts going ham on the van for some reason. So my question is, did Leatherface like sneakily undo the lug nuts on the tires, or maybe the sheriff did? I don't know, but it just seemed like a premeditated thing.
I definitely think like Leatherface did it, and I think that's supposed to be mirrored at the end when we'll get there.
Okay.
But yeah, because she's hot wiring the car and the thing falls out, and then behind them, because they're both in the front seat, behind them you see the damn bloody glass hole, and Leatherface finally shatters the back of the glass and starts cutting up the van, and then they try to escape, but he catches Pepper and slashes out. She's wearing like a coat at this time, right?
Like a fleece.
Yeah. Because he cuts through, so the feathers are going everywhere, and it makes a really cool shot as he turns around to look, and she realizes that he's wearing Kemper's face, but it honestly just kind of looks, oh no, he's Armenian, look out.
Yeah.
It just,
right.
It just looks like he's vaguely ethnic, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah. It took me a minute to kind of piece it together because that particular mask it's sad and very like, ugh. It took me a moment to piece together who that was, like whose face that was, and then I was like, that's kind of cool, but doesn't quite look like him, but like, oh, nice callback.
Yeah, the execution's not 100% there, but yeah,
right.
Yeah, and like just like imagine like seeing like the person that you're like in love with or whatever, and like seeing their dead face on someone like that. That
great.
was the worst.
Yeah,
it's a great idea.
But yeah, Pepper's death, incredible with getting chainsawed, and you don't actually see what happens to her other than the feathers from her coat that start flying up in the air, and the feathers are still flying in the air when you see, Leatherface wearing the face. Yeah. So it's just this beautiful like snowy cascade of feathers, and again, very music video. Very music video.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah. So much more of the suffering. Like the dudes have it so much harder than the women in this movie. Like they don't spend a lot of time with the deaths, with the torturing Pepper and whatever. It's just whoop. Whereas with Kemper and then Andy, they spend some time with that.
Erin runs through the woods and she finds a trailer. Again, the geography of this place, I'm just like, she just keeps stumbling onto new spots around here, and I don't know how they're kind of spatially related to each other.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's a couple of older ladies inside drinking tea, and they keep insisting that she drink tea and settle down, which of course not to do. And she's asking for a phone repeatedly, and they keep trying to calm her down. This is where we get a little Leatherface backstory, which, as we've already discussed, pretty much unneeded.
Everyone around here knows that poor sweet boy.
Sweet boy.
But he's no harm. He always keeps to himself. Skin disease. He was just a little boy when it started. Didn't you look at his face?
But it does clue you in that, like, I don't know if they're a part of the specific family or if they're just part of the community, or if there's, is the family just community now?
Just a part of the town.
Yeah, that's what it kind of felt like, that it's just that they all know each other and you're in trouble. So it feels like this is a little bit more like Hicksploitation than full on than I would argue that the first one was. Because the first one, just like you encounter other Texans that seem fine and nice, but everyone you meet here is a weirdo, and there's never a sense of safety with anybody. Yeah. But these idiot protagonists keep being like, okay, well, you're extremely creepy, but you're not immediately trying to kill me, so I think I can trust you.
Right. She does ask for a phone, and the one lady says, no, we don't have a phone. They're a hassle. And I'm like, amen. Yeah.
We must go back.
I would like to go live in that trailer now.
Well, they got plenty of tea, so it'll be nice and relaxing.
I can hang there for a while. She does finally, of course, drink some tea, and she passes out. Sheriff wakes her up by pouring beer in her face. And we realize that the woman who was at the barbecue shop earlier is basically Mama Leatherface, and she implies some motivation here.
I know you're kind. Nothing but cruelty and ridicule for my boy all the time he was growing up.
And she's implying that, it's okay that he does this because you're kind, you city folk just sort of,
right.
You blue staters, and hate on us red staters, and now it's okay to chainsaw you. Is basically how it's coming off to me.
Yeah. You bullied him into being this maniac. So yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, and again, it's like the thing where like, so everyone's in on it and everyone's fine with it. Okay,
Right.
fine,
Yeah,
sure.
we all just accept this.
Yeah, but of course, like the little kid's part of the family too, but they all hate him for some reason.
Right.
They like chase him
he
away.
seems to be the only one that's just kind of like, this ain't right.
Yeah.
Like he's, like,
yeah, which I thought more was,
but he's still
yeah,
young,
and I thought more was going to happen with him than eventually does, but no, he's just there to be like, there's good ones too.
Yeah. Well, every great horror film needs one little creepy kid.
They end up tossing Aaron in the basement, and this is where she finds Andy, who we neglected to mention earlier, got the meat hook. And he got the meat hook, and he got a salt pack on his stump that was sawn off. So he's in this...
To stop the bleeding or to preserve it?
Both?
That was also weird to me, because it's like, how is he's still alive, right? He's had his leg completely severed. You would think he would bleed out. I mean, he's hanging there.
Yeah.
But no, still going. Still going. It's presumably been like at least an hour or two.
Totally.
At this point.
He's done enough to like do that great bit where like he kind of like pulls himself up and almost gets off, but then ends up putting himself into a worse position, which that was effective to me.
That was good. That was like, if you want to be torture porny about it, that worked for me. Like that, because it was sort of his own doing. And yeah, so he's really beaten up, and she like tries to save him. And this was kind of weird to me, because he's like, just kill me, put me out of my misery, the kind of aliens thing. But he's in this very Christ-like pose.
Yeah.
The best part of this movie for me is the fact that he is suspended over a piano. Yeah. As a piano player, this spoke to me deeply. If I go out, this is my preferred method. Suspended over a piano keys. With just my little bloody toes just tinkling the ivories.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
I'd like to do something to do while you're hanging there. You're like, well, maybe I can compose something or teach myself to play, chopsticks.
Yeah.
But he's in this very Christ-like pose over that, and then she has to like stab him in the stomach. I'm sorry, if you want to kill someone, like that's a long and painful way to die, I'd think.
Right.
But apparently, like, he is just swollen with blood, because he just bursts out of, like, she's crying at his feet and he's just bleeding all over her. And it seems like they're trying to do this kind of religious iconography, but for nothing, like, other than it looks cool. And so that was a little kind of, I was too busy thinking about that than sort of being in the scene, but she does get very, very bloody as a result.
I was too swept away by the music in a bad way. Like the music here was just so swollen with strings, and it was so melodramatic. And I'm just like, this is not a Texas Chainsaw movie.
There's no subtlety in this.
Yeah.
Major bummer on that one. That there was music at all. Just give me some weird, creepy sound effects and no music, and I'll,
This was the soundtrack was done by Steve Jablonsky, known for his work in The Sims 3 and the Transformers film series.
Oh, there's the Bay connection right there.
Yeah.
And
Battleship.
Swellings.
And he did Battleship.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
After stabbing poor Andy, she just looks over and finds Morgan, who's just chilling in the tub there.
I thought it was Kemper at first. Like I thought it was like a faceless Kemper.
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
yeah, but he had a face, so I was like, oh, I guess that's
they have similar. They have similar kind of like floppy, kind of curly hair, and like the same neck to head ratio of just 1-to-1, just tubes with hats.
Yeah,
No, it's.
I think they were wearing similar outfits too, so that was part of it.
Morgan. So Morgan's still alive.
He even looked like he had a little bit of a hole in his back too, and I'm like, I wonder if he got a little bit of meat hook action at one point too, but then he got put into a tub.
Brining him, I guess.
Yeah. Jedediah appears to lead them out, but there you have it. Leatherface appears again, and then the kid leads them through like this like kind of maze area of some sort. It did kind of remind me of the Jason remake in 2009 with the underground tunnels.
Sure.
With the light coming through here. This goes on for quite a while, and I'm just like, what's the geography of this house? But whatever. And of course, they get stuck on the stairs, and just as they're stuck on the stairs, like the little boy like bites his hand or something like that, and the chainsaw even dies at this point. So evidently they were originally just going to have Leatherface slice into this kid's back, which would have been pretty brutal. Like,
very brutal.
Just going one notch more, which I don't know.
Yeah, and the chainsaw dying again was another one of those blah, blah kind of moments for me too. It's just like, here we go.
Yeah. So they finally get out and they lock Leatherface in the basement. But then like 2 seconds later, he's out somehow again. I guess, I mean, he does have a chainsaw. So I suppose even if we didn't see it, I can accept that he blew through the doors.
He's also a big guy.
Yeah, that's true.
He can heave his way out.
It's like a little bit later, he chases them into this house. They find this dilapidated house somewhere, and they chase him in, and they see that he's coming. So they just put a couch against the door. It's like, yeah, he's got a chainsaw. Like,
yeah,
you didn't buy.
I guess I would have just given up.
Well, but if they like kept running, and obviously, I don't know what I would do in that situation, but they're like, no, we're fine here. There's a couch that'll stop them.
Right. Slow him down just a little bit. Yeah, so they wander into another local grounds where, again, I don't know where these places are. And again, like, I'm not asking for like a drone shot to show me like a map or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, they just keep stumbling onto these like new spots around, and like they do that like once or twice in the original, but I just felt like that was a little bit more telegraphed. Like, I knew where I was most of the time.
Everything had a better sense of place.
Yeah, everything's just so tight and claustrophobic too. Yeah, there's no way to get the lay of the land, and it's cut so quickly that even in the action sequence, especially in the action sequences, it's just like I can barely piece together what's going on. Like, stuff is going on, and then my brain like 3 seconds later goes, "Oh, okay, this is what's
you got to catch up." So you have no time to figure out where they're even at.
Leatherface saws into the door, and both Aaron and Morgan do manage to hide. He stalks around all quiet, trying to find them, and rats crawl and squeal around and stuff. I do like that Aaron stands up and then he just RoboCops her through the wall.
That was great, but I also like that Aaron's plan involved hiding Morgan in the most obvious spot.
Yeah,
and then hiding somewhere else. It was like
hiding someplace better.
Yeah, this closet says don't open, so you'll be fine in here.
Leatherface is bearing down on Aaron with a chainsaw when Morgan, who is still handcuffed, appears, and he does rush Leatherface. And I do really like the fact that he doesn't knock Leatherface over. They don't go for like a cheap move right there. It does look like this wiry little guy slams into a 400-pound Hulk and goes nowhere. And that, I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Great.
That's why he's the hero of the movie.
There you go. So Leatherface grabs him and suspends him handcuffs on a chandelier.
Which it was, I just want to say real quick, it was so weird because, in order for him to do that, Morgan had to put his hands all the way up in the air so that he could be then hung. Right. Which, if I'm in a battle with a, deranged chainsaw wielding maniac, my hands are staying close.
Yeah, like
I'm not gonna be singing the praises.
Right.
The moment strikes us at strange times. There's no.
Would this help you?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Let's get this over with, I guess, was what he was thinking. I'm done. Let's just do this.
But it does allow for a pretty gnarly death scene for him, though, that I remembered being more graphic, because by the time he got hung from the chandelier, I did remember this kill scene, and I wonder if there's like different cuts or something, or maybe I'm just thinking, I just watched too many horror movies, and maybe I am thinking of like a chainsaw going through somebody and guts spilling down to the ground.
Yeah, no, you just see him hit the balls, and that's it. And then they cut away.
And that's it. And I thought it was more graphic. His
face just kind of slumps, and that's it. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of a different movie altogether. But I do like that poor guy has been handcuffed this entire time, and that's still played into his death scene.
Brutal way to go.
She keeps running and ends up in a slaughterhouse. So in the other films, this has always been some place that loomed large in the community. Like, we drove past it. We've heard about, the way that they do things there now. Now it's going to be the location for our end set piece. So I guess it makes sense. Again, we're picking things out to show that we've never seen before in a remake, but it's a little on the nose too. We're going to end in a slaughterhouse.
But I do like that the main thing that happens in there is in a locker room. That it's not like we're just dealing with a whole bunch of different pig slaughtering equipment that Leatherface is dealing with. Is that like she hides in a locker in this like room of lockers, and there's a very tense scene as he's looking for her. And I thought this actually was pretty effective. And he like passes by her, but then she finds like a butchered, big cleaver hanging in there, and is like, "Oh, this is my chance." Tries to get him back over. I felt a little cheated here because he figures out that like, there's noises coming from here. He thinks he knows where she is now. Opens the thing. I thought it was going to be the possum again, but it wasn't.
Oh.
It was a pig. It was like a little piglet that was in there for some reason.
That's
it was
true.
in the locker. But then she bursts out from behind him and starts hacking at him. Gets an arm clean off, which I was not expecting. The arm carrying the chainsaw just gets lopped off.
And then one of the best shots in the movie to me is Leatherface trying to pick up his own arm with the chainsaw, going around in circles on a blood-slicked floor. That was fantastic. It's like hats off on that one.
Yeah. And the chainsaw sounds, the sound effects of the chainsaw in this movie were kind of chef's kiss, honestly.
Yeah.
Like real good. Yeah. Real good sound.
Absolutely.
Totally works.
Especially when it's sliding around on a moist, bloody
kill room floor.
Yeah.
So they cat and mouse a little bit all over that slaughterhouse, and she manages to get out. I guess we did skip by briefly the bit where she hides inside of a beef carcass, which is pretty great.
Oh yeah, I already forgot about that. Yeah.
Running through like hanging beef, and she has to wrap herself in that. It is funny because like I did manage to like right before the locker room bit, I was starting to kind of like really tune out. Like I was having like, but just as we were getting to the locker room, I was like, okay, finally, like
it's almost
we're going to get to something like tension filled here.
Well, I think this has been the longest one so far.
I think you're right. Yeah. So, she runs into the road and manages to stop a semi. Outsteps a guy who just seems just fine, actually. Tells her to get into the cab. I wrote in my notes, who is this actor? And I never looked it up. So, John Kelly, do you know?
Did you ever watch Friday Night Lights, the TV show?
Yes.
That's Buddy Garrity from Friday Night Lights. And he was also he's also on Parks and Rec. There's when Paul Rudd is like running for office. He's like another goofy campaign guy. It's like someone else that's running. That's like a crazy libertarian weirdo.
It's Buddy Garrity for me. And,
absolutely Buddy Garrity. So I was very excited to see it. That is Brad Leland is the actor.
There you go. You know who it was supposed to be?
Gunnar Hansen.
Yeah. And they once again offered him SAG minimum, $658 a day for one day. And he said, take a hike.
Yeah.
So
good for you, Gunnar Hansen. Like, just like, yeah.
Just, God. Yeah. Just pay the man his money just a little bit just to come back.
That would have been so cool.
Yeah.
Been a fun little thing, but no.
It's fine. Mm-hmm. The movie only made $100 million.
Sure.
Well, I think it might have made $10 less if they had paid him $660 though.
True. That's true. No regrets.
Of course, he's driving the wrong way, and either that or he's got a hankering for barbecue, and he stops at the barbecue spot, and the entire family is gathered there, including the two women. Oh, and the baby that we neglected to mention before. Henrietta, the mouse ear looking woman. She's got a baby that's so clearly not hers. Its eyes aren't crossed. Heyo. But
it was unclear too how that was figured out. How she was like, "That's not your baby." How do you know? How do you know?
I think it was because the Piss family. Like, I think it was the photo that was like. I think that the idea is that I don't know if that was supposed to be that little girl's baby, probably, but is the Piss baby. But it was
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it was, but it's so like, I know that baby from anywhere. But I think that was the implication there. But
okay, so that means that the Piss photo was very recently hidden in
apparently,
the car.
yeah,
because the baby was still a baby,
right?
So interesting. Okay,
but I don't know if it was supposed to be the kid of the woman from the beginning or just like in the same family. But yeah, so the whole family's there now, and the Erin, Jessica Biel, is already like, when she's in the car, she's freaking out like the girl at the beginning. Like she can't fully talk and is like, no, wrong way, and can't seem to articulate.
Yeah, grabbing the wheel and
But then switches into
solid
action mode. And this is kind of what I was referring to earlier when we were talking about Leatherface undoing the wheels on the car, because she somehow manages to slip in and steal the baby. And I don't understand how that happened at all.
I guess so. They do this. I personally am not a fan of the deceptive edit type of thing that happens at the end of certain movies. Silence of the Lambs, famously. But we're watching Arlie Ermey run around, and we're led to believe that she's still in the truck cab, but she's not. And then from her point of view, she's actually in another car. And I always think that that's just kind of like cheap tension. Like I'm not surprised when that reveal happens. I'm more just like, oh, you're doing that again. Anyway, so yeah, she's saved the baby. She manages to run over Arlie Ermey like 2 or 3 times, which, you know, as compared to the original Texas Chainsaw, Sally just jumps in the back of a truck. Not just like she's not allowed revenge at the end, but Erin is allowed revenge at the end of this one. I don't have a strong opinion whatsoever on that, really, but it is a marked difference.
Yeah, I think it does sort of speak to that, reducing it just to being another slasher movie where there is this idea of what a final girl is and how she should act and what she should do. And again, the thing that just bothers me so much is just the logistics of all of it, of just like you're talking about the geography of just that. How did you get out of the truck, go inside behind everybody, steal a baby, come back out and start hotwiring the sheriff's car or whatever in no time at all, with like no one even noticing? That just felt like a big cheat. And it was kind of crummy.
Well, that's the Navy SEALs training that we didn't get to hear about.
Kept going with it, then it would be like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, the thing that's funny to me that I thought was really hilarious about her revenge kill is that the baby is completely unperturbed by all of it as it's going on, screaming and just the bumping of the just everything, just total chaos. Baby's just super
just fine,
just kind of smiling, just happy to be there.
She stole the baby from Lone Wolf and Cub. It's totally just fine.
She takes off, and Leatherface gets one last zinger at her and sawn on the side of the car. And then we cut to a little bit of the like found footage from before. That's our bookend.
Yeah.
And it's like revealed, like there's a freeze frame at the end of Leatherface, and we're revealed his name is like what, Thomas Hewitt?
Thomas Hewitt. Yeah, they revealed at the beginning that they've changed the name from the Sawyers to the Hewitt. I don't know why. I guess because they thought it'd be too, like saying Sawyer and having Saw on there was too obvious.
Yeah,
because this movie was concerned about that, I guess. But whatever, it's fine. They changed the name. It's not like there's been a real strong continuity throughout all of this. But yeah, there's supposed to be what's allegedly supposed to be like footage of the sheriff's department going through the crime scene. They apparently didn't lock down the crime scene, and Leatherface is there and kills both the sheriff and the guy. And they're like, yeah, this is the one freeze frame we have of this guy, which we just watched a whole movie of him. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really understand what that's supposed to do for me. Okay, sure. Other than be like, well, he's still out there.
Yeah, I noted that in the very beginning when we were first seeing that footage of the cops in the basement, I wrote down like unsecure crime scene, not wearing gloves. They're just going through touching stuff. I was like, this is not cool. And then I was happy that they noted it at the very end that it was not secure, because clearly it wasn't. And then we get our nice kind of Blair Witch Project.
Oh, sure.
At the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, camera falls face right in front of it. And like I also couldn't help but think, because at the beginning they were like, oh, look at this, there's a fingernail in the wall and some hair. Ugh. And so then when that moment happens, it's disgusting, but you're like, oh, it's that. Let me be in the moment, not go, oh, that was from before.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing I saw.
Right. I recognize things. Thank you, movie. But yeah, so Leatherface is still out there. Aaron's still out there.
All's well that ends well.
Right. She got away. There's a baby. Saved a baby.
And I mean, historically, like if you look at about when this movie's supposed to take place, the closest Leonard Skinner show to this wasn't that great. So they didn't miss too much.
Yeah, this was much more of an adventure for sure for everybody.
Right.
We're gonna look back at this and laugh.
Right.
I gotta say though, you know, I mean, if this hadn't have been a part of this beautiful legacy film of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if it was just its own thing, it was all right.
If it was its own thing, I would have been just like, that was brutal and kind of grimy, but not bad. You know?
Very heavy.
I would have still had some of the same complaints about it, about structurally, like how it's put together, stuff like that. But I wouldn't be going the whole time, you know, what are you doing? Why is that? Why did you Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Yeah. Just let it be its own thing. But yeah, I mean, you could do a lot worse than this movie, but it doesn't, to me, it doesn't justify itself as a remake. Is my thing. Like, it doesn't, as a cover, I'm good. I think the original one still is way better. But as a horror movie, it's not bad. Like I said, it's kind of shouting at you the whole time, but that was the style at the time.
Right.
Yeah. It justifies itself as an investment.
Yeah.
But that's about it, really. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Jessica Biel, I thought she was great.
I think she's a good final girl.
I think
admittedly, I'm also a little Stockholm syndromed after the last couple. So I'm just sort of like, okay, there's something happened in this, and it wasn't just yelling. So my bar might be a bit low right now.
We had some good chainsaw sounds, some very some lovely cinematography.
This brings up a good point, because I kind of feel like there was on our Texas Chainsaw 4, one of our listeners, Chumps on Instagram. He was just saying, like, I'd still kind of like to check this out, even though you guys sounded a little bit down on this. And like, I would say, like, yeah, absolutely check out part 4 because it's so odd. So to me, I would say, like, absolutely check this one out, even if I didn't love it all the way through. I think this one's worth watching. And maybe we weren't clear on that on the part 4 episode when we were just like, oh, what is this? I still think that one's worth watching just because it's so bizarre. So I think this one's still worth watching.
I don't. There's part of me that almost wants to recommend 4 more than this, simply because 4 is just so strange, and it's really bad. But this is just more of a slick horror product that I think it's just aesthetically, it's not my jam in a lot of ways. But I can't fault it for being that. But I do think I have a lot of problems with it outside of that. But a lot of it just boils down to, I don't like that this is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. You're fucking it up, but there's stuff about it that's fine.
Like, right out the gate, it's just, how dare you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I am sort of like, I believe I said at the end of the first one, it's like, well, go ahead and remake it because you're never going to do what the original did. While I still stand by that, it's just kind of a bummer to see like a sort of reheated, significantly less good version. Like, they did try to do their own things. They didn't spend a whole lot of time just going, hey, remember the first one? Hey, remember the first one? So I'll give them credit for that. There's no dinner scene. Yeah, there's no dinner scene. But they did, I think they just kind of like, as much as sort of disgusting and violent a lot of it is, they kind of sanded down a lot of the edges of what made it a more terrifying experience, going for the more basic slasher stuff, which is a bit of a bummer for what this was.
Was the family, were they even cannibals in this? I'm not even sure.
It's not really like said. Yeah, I mean, there's crap hanging up everywhere, and it seems like that's probably the thing, but it's not really underlined like the way in the first one, where it's like, no, you will be eaten, or even in the second one. In the third one, they still ate. Fourth one, it didn't matter. This one, I don't think. Yeah, this one's at least questionable. But you don't put Harry Knowles' head on a silver platter unless you're going to eat it. So
yeah, there you go.
or your Salome or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. No, there's that whole kitchen scene with Andy too, where he walks in the kitchen and there's various like meats and skins hanging up
true.
and stuff. And then he goes and he opens the fridge and he's like, "Oh, what's that smell?" As though he didn't just walk into a kitchen.
Why are you opening their fridge?
Feeling a little peckish, you know. But yeah, no, like the only, like, we do see tons of meat, but we know what kind of meat it is, as opposed to in the first one, whereas that shot of like the smoker, and it's just like, I don't know where that came from. Yeah. I don't know what kind of meat. There's no identify. It's just parts.
Yeah, you're sort of having the same realization as she is in that moment. Whereas this, you're like, all right, you idiots, figure it out. Come on, this is creepy.
Isn't it gross? It's a pig, you know, instead of what could be in that meat.
Gross. It's got flies on it, but yeah.
Well, let's honor our dead and get on out of here. Teenage girl, played by Lauren German, shot herself in the head. Kemper, played by Eric Balfour, sledgehammer bashed head by Leatherface. Pepper Harrington, played by Erica Learson, chased down and sliced by chainsaw. Andy, played by Mike Vogel, leg chainsawed off, placed on meat hook, leg stump salted, then stabbed by Aaron as a mercy kill. Morgan, played by Jonathan Tucker, hung from a chandelier, bisected by chainsaw. Sheriff Charlie Hewitt, played by R. Lee Ermey, run over 3 times with own police car. Okay, so yeah, I'd say go ahead and watch this, but within the same caveats as we were just going over just a bit ago. You might like it. Let us know what you think in the Instagram comments if you're enjoying this like slick new remake, because there's more of these out there, not just the Texas ones, but there's the Amityville remake, there's the Freddy remake, there's the Jason remake, which we already did, all same company, same aesthetic, all that kind of thing. So I think they even did the Hitcher remake, which I think I've seen, but I really, really like the original Hitcher, so I can't imagine that I liked the remake. But
I'm also fascinated if you hadn't seen the original one, like this was your first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and you saw this one and then saw the original, whether you liked it or hated it. I'm very curious about your thoughts about this. If you are ride or die for this one over the other one, let me know. I'm always open to hearing about it. Like what you like. It's totally fine.
Well, and also I'd be fascinated to hear about if someone saw this chainsaw first and then finally got around to watching the original, and just was the original what you thought it was going to be based on this, or was that completely out of left field or something like that?
Because I can admittedly, I can see part of me, if I was, 13, 14 and I saw this movie and then I saw the original one, I might be like, yeah, it's not as whatever. Yeah. It's like, I used to hate Alien because it wasn't Aliens. It was like, I needed, where's the cool Marines and something way more scary. Yeah. And now I'd much rather watch Alien. I mean, nothing against. I will actually watch Aliens, but I just prefer Alien.
Oh, you will.
we just need to get. We need James Cameron's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Right. I actually wrote down I have a couple ideas for some good directors. Yes. I want to see Harmony Korine's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, you know that
cannibalism
would be
in the bathtub. With soap in your hair.
Yeah. And then I also want Terrence Malick's Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That'd be pretty.
That would be so existential.
Both would be absolute masterpieces.
Yeah. Am I the meat after I eat the meat or before I eat the meat? Do I take them into my body?
Yeah. Dinosaurs.
Are they now me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's I'm just putting it out there. I'm putting it in the universe.
About that, as we talked about before, there was the producer for Friday the 13th. I think it was part 7 that was like, we're talking to Fellini about trying to get Fellini to do this.
You sure are talking about it. Yeah.
Shoot for the stars.
Yeah. Right.
The Harmony Korine one would be so upsetting. It would just be like,
wouldn't it?
There wouldn't even be hitchhikers. It would just be like the family going about their day, and it would be the worst thing you've ever seen.
And turning on each other.
Shattering. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and so grainy.
Yeah. Oh, so grainy.
So grainy.
Leatherface just wants to get out.
He'd nail it. He would absolutely nail it. So that remake, I would allow it.
But no, I think those are definitely good picks for if you're going to do a remake. Yeah, just go all out. Just do it that way.
I'd see him.
Full spectrum too. Harmony Korine and Terrence Malick. Yeah. So between the two of them.
Yeah, I think that would humanize Leatherface in a very interesting way. In a way that might make you uncomfortable.
Sure.
Maybe we're all a little like Leatherface.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Kelly.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah,
this was amazing, you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, where can the good folks find you online if you even want to reveal that, or anything coming up that you want to talk about or anything like that?
You can find me at Kelly W Collage on Instagram. That's where I have a lot of my cool artwork and whatnot, and working together with all you guys a lot on lots of different trailer projects. So you can find them all on YouTube, and they're in the world.
They're in the world.
So check them out.
Yes. Okay. Until next time, fire up Texas Chainsaw: The New Beginning. It's a prequel to this one because we can't move forward because we cut Leatherface's arm off. So that'll be the next one that we're going to check out. So watch that along with us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And until then, maybe consider giving us one of those 5-star reviews they put out there on iTunes. And you can find us at This May Hurt a Bit Pod on Instagram, or Hurt a Bit Pod on YouTube, or you can email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. So we'll talk to you next week. Good night.
Good night.
This has been a Caretaker Press production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at thismayhurtabitpod and email us at thismayhurtabitpod@gmail.com. Give us a 5-star review over on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.